Hi guys, and welcome to another motorcycle adventure from Kent Outdoors. Today we are doing the Britain for Bikers Maidstone Cold Brilliant route because I live just outside Maidstone. It's a 51-mile route and starts in the suburb of Coxheath. So let's take a look at the route, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you a little about Maidstone. So from Coxheath we're heading west straight over Linton Crossroads through Baltimore-on-Chelsea and turning right on the A274 through Sutton Valence to Headcorn. Continue on the main road south and eventually we will run through Tenterden. We'll pick up the A28. Heading then southwest to Newenden, where we are going to turn right on the A264 to Hawkhurst, and then picking up the A229 up towards Cranbrook. But before we get to Cranbrook, we're going to head off left through the lanes, cut the corner, pick up the A262, going through Goudhurst, and before we hit the A21 you might have to go around the roundabout here to turn right. We're going to head up north through Horsemondon up to Yalding, and then sort of do a little jiggery pokery around the Farley area to get back to Coxheath. So, a little bit about Maidstone. Well, stone tools and other evidence tell us that our ancestors were living in the Maidstone area over 400,000 years ago. Significant finds from the Bronze Age, Iron Age and later Roman and Saxon periods provide tantalising glimpses of what life must have been like for local people. Written records do not exist much before the medieval period, when the Archbishop's Palace overlooking the Medway became the focus of a small settlement. But in 1549 Maidstone was recognised as a town when it was granted a royal charter. Famous incidents in its history include the Weir Rebellion and Battle of Maidstone in the English Civil War, 1648. By the 18th century, Maidstone was the official and legal centre of Kent. It was also a successful industrial town with major brewing and paper-making industries. In the 21st century, Maidstone is still expanding as a retail and entertainment centre.
So the first stop on our little route is a little known castle ruin by Sutton Valence, and I'm going to read a bit of text from the English Heritage website. Sutton Valence Castle was owned by a succession of important medieval lords. The castle was located in a strong position overlooking the road from Maidstone to Winchelsea and dominating the Weald of Kent. The Norman Count of O'Malley, Baldwin de Bethune, probably built the castle in the middle of the 12th century. It was used as a residence for over 150 years by a succession of important lords and earls. Having passed down through various marriages, in 1238 the castle was owned by Simon de Montfort, 6th Earl of Leicester. As leader of the baronial rebellion against Henry III, he was killed at the Battle of Evesham in 1265, and his estates were confiscated by the Crown. Henry III then conferred the castle on his half-brother, William de Valence, as a reward for his support during the rebellion. The village of Sutton, or Southtown, became known as Sutton Valence. William's son, Aymer de Valence, inherited the castle in 1307 and stayed here in June 1315. Remarkably, 3 of the Valence household accounts have survived. These show that the family spent their time constantly travelling between their many estates. In the period between May 1296 and September 1297, Joan de Valence, William's widow, spent time at 8 different residences, including a month here at Sutton Valence.
So this is Tenterden, and in Roman times the Weald of Kent and much of East Sussex were covered by a huge expanse of forest. A Roman road from Thanet passed through the district, but it wasn't until Saxon times that a settlement was recorded. In Old English, Tenet Warden described a den or clearing in the forest belonging to the men of Thanet, and the town's name is derived from this ancient identification. Tenterden first rose to affluence as a centre for the wool trade in the 13th century. In 1331, Edward III prohibited the export of raw wool and brought weavers and dyers from Flanders to teach the English to manufacture finished cloth, and in the subsequent decades, Tenterden's prosperity grew. Despite this relative affluence, a number of townsfolk supported the Peasants' Revolt and joined Wat Tyler's march on Canterbury and London in 1381. The town, unlike other wool centres in the Weald, has the advantage of access to the sea. Much of what is now Romney Marsh was underwater, and ships docked at Smallhithe. Wood from the Wealden Forest was used to construct ships, and in 1449 Tenterden was incorporated into the Confederation of Cinque Ports as a limb of Rye. Ships built in the town were then used to help Rye fulfil its quota for the Crown. As a Cinque Port, Tenterden enjoyed virtual self-government, was exempt from national taxation, and was represented at the coronation of the monarch. The latter privilege is still jealously guarded, and the town still retains a mayor, but sadly, exemption from taxes no longer applies. In the 15th and 16th centuries, changes in the coastline meant that the Cinque Ports lost much of their influence. Indeed, Tenterden lost all access to the sea, and today is some 10 miles from the coast. A small cache of Bronze Age palstaves found in a ditch close to the Cranbrook Road in 1855 is the earliest indication of life at Goudhurst. Although Goudhurst is not mentioned in the Domesday Book, its parish church of St Mary the Virgin is referred to in the Domesday Monachorum of a similar date, indicating that there was a settlement here from at least Saxon times. The place name Goudhurst is derived from a location at the top of a hill in the former forest of Andrisweald, the Hurst element referring to the wooded hill on which it stands. As regards commercial activity, in 1309 Edward II granted a licence for a weekly market and 2 annual fairs to be held. By the late 16th century, there were at least 2 iron furnaces in Goudhurst, and the one situated at Bedgebury is said to have supplied some of the cannons used to defeat the Spanish Armada in 1588. In 1747, the notorious group of local smugglers known as the Hawkhurst Gang were firmly beaten in a battle between them and a group of local inhabitants led by William Sturt, who later became master of the Goudhurst workhouse. Overall, however, Goudhurst remained an agricultural parish, and as the cloth and iron industries declined and the 19th century dawned, hops, apples, plums and pears joined the more traditionally grown cereal crops. Until more recent times, Goudhurst would have been entirely self-sufficient, with its own mix of trades and craftsmen, from blacksmiths to wheelwrights and bakers to butchers. Even today, the village still has a good selection of shops. There we go, guys, we're back to Cox Heath from where we started, so time to go home and get some tea, I guess. Stay safe out there, but most of all, be happy.